When I was about 8 years old, I was sitting in Walmart waiting for my mom to get her nails done. And I had a toy that I wanted to get, and I didn't have enough money to get it. So I'm just sitting there waiting for her to get her nails done. And this guy, I just see him run back into Walmart, and he just runs up to me and he goes, "Hey man, here's $5. And it was actually the amount I needed to actually pay for that toy. And ever since then, I've always thought, like, be courteous to others with, like, if anyone needs anything, not even if they need it, if you're just like, I want to go give them this, don't be afraid to go and give them that, because chances are they may need it. Anyone you see just sitting on the street and they need some cash or some food or water, what's gonna hurt to go ahead and just give them at least food or water? That guy left an impact on me to always be selfless.
Well, this one time I had a terrible weekend. Went down to see a girl I had known for a long time. It did not go as planned. I'm all mopey. I end up back at the Denver airport on a 3-hour layover. I'd rather be anywhere else but sitting there doing nothing. And I'm in line to buy food. This random stranger's behind me in line. I turn around and offer to buy her supper if she'll listen to me complain. And she agreed. So we sit down. I go on and on. I had a bad weekend. My life's terrible. Blah, 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 blah. And then I say, so what about you? Why are you traveling? And she says, well, my nephew just committed suicide and I came back from his funeral. All of a sudden, my life problems are not that big of problems anymore. So that's my impactful story. You never know who's next to you or behind you or what's going on, and a little perspective might just change your life.
When I was younger, I used to play baseball. I was gonna say probably about 10. And I was in the on-deck circle, I was in the on-deck circle, and some kid came up swinging wildly because he had no sense, and hit me in the head with a metal baseball bat, and knocked me unconscious. And I never really, after that, I stopped playing baseball. I never really played sports after that. And I always I always regretted it because my favorite sport is basketball. But I never played because I was always afraid of getting injured again. And I never thought, I didn't want it to become something more. I was lucky with the head injury, and I didn't want to get injured worse, that I couldn't do something one day.
I was sitting at Humphreys, and my son was just born, so I was still in protective dad mode. And all of a sudden, he just kind of reached out like this. And there was a man sitting next to me, and he held his finger. And normally I would just yell at this guy saying, hey, don't touch my kid. But for some reason, I just let this happen. I don't know why, just a gut feeling. And then all of a sudden, this guy just starts crying. He just said, thanks. You really needed this. It just shocked me. You never really know what kind of impact you're going to leave on people.
As an introvert, I actually try and avoid strangers or talking to people that I don't have to. So I tend to avoid those types of interactions, although they do happen sometimes because I travel. But the strangers that have impacted me most happen to be convenience store clerks. And it tends to be when I am at some sort of existential crisis or in one of those moods where life seems kind of dark. So I take a drive, and you end up having to buy gas and such, and not once, but maybe 5 or 6 times during those road trips, a convenience store clerk has completely changed my outlook on life in a 5-second interaction. And I don't even know what they said, I just remember how they made me feel, and I was pretty impressed that a quick interaction like that. And it's not your usual convenience store interactions where they have to ask you, hi, how are you, have a good day type things. They were just really real people. And I don't think it's an accident that those exact times when I needed that these particular convenience store clerks ended up in my life. And it just makes me remember what an impact just a really quick interaction, what you can really do in someone's life by being a positive influence.
When I was in high school, this was 8 years ago, my friend Taylor and I, we were headed out to our friend Celeste's house, and this is like deep in the boonies down in Utah. And we were driving, it was about 10 o'clock at night, and he kind of had an old truck that we were using, and he made a turn that caused the truck to go in the ditch. Well, we couldn't back out of it because it was an older truck. And it was, again, it was really dark because of how late it was, and our friend's house was just down the way, and we tried calling her to get some help. Well, a truck pulled up, and there was 4 gentlemen in there, and they saw that we needed help and pulled up a chain. They hooked it up to the truck and pulled it out of the ditch, and we were able to go on our way. And it was so dark I wasn't able to ever see those guys' faces, but we thanked them, and they didn't ask for anything and just left. So it was really awesome that they could help us out in a time of need. I mean, there's not a lot of help out there in the dark, and you know, who would have thought that someone would have been driving at that time of night to help us out, but they did.
So it was like, I don't know how many years ago, but anyway, it was the rodeo was in town, and we had the big, huge, like, worldwide rodeo here in Gillette. And this one family kept on coming into Walmart. It was back when I worked in a photo lab. And the girl and I got to talking, and they were from Australia, and they couldn't like afford a rental car, so they were walking to and from the hotel they were in. And I was like, that's crazy. And she's like, yeah. And then they were gonna have like a picture signing and stuff like that later on, so I went to it, and she told me that like I was one of the nicest people in town and to never change. And then I found out that she was Miss Australia, and she signed my picture, or signed a picture for me, and that was pretty cool. So that's just neat, I guess. I got to meet Miss Australia of that year. And she told me that I was nice and gave me a hug.
I think when I was like 5, I think that's about how old I was. I remember being on Hot Wheels, and I was pedaling up and down the sidewalk, and yes. And I remember a car pulling up and stopping, and I was kind of showing off for the car because there was a little girl in the back, but she was just crying and crying. And I remember thinking, if you watch me ride the Hot Wheels, maybe you'll stop crying. But she was like kind of banging on the window. And then the passenger door opened as they pulled up next to they were already parked, but the passenger door opened, which was to me. And this lady's like, there's another one, get him. And I remember thinking, like, looking around like, get who or what, get what. And then this guy gets out of the driver's side and starts coming for me. So I start pedaling away, like, confused a little bit, and then he starts walking towards me fast, and I just jumped out of the Hot Wheels, and I ran about half a block or whatever to where my mom was cleaning hotel rooms in this little hotel. I was just right on the sidewalk, like out front. But I was so scared when I told my mom. I was like shaking, crying, hysterical, and I don't remember much else about it. But when she said another one, I thought, they already have one?
The most recent big impact I had was I met a doctor, and she told me that I was this close to being where I would needed to be health-wise, and that I just had a few more steps to take. And she told me that I needed to stop hanging and clinging onto my past, and it really kind of opened up a lot of things for me for healing internally and just being able to move on from everything that I had been through. I've been through a lot. And I didn't even have to explain very much to her, just that I had been through bits and pieces of these things. And she told me, you just have to be strong in your mind, and you have to be strong in your heart, and, you know, move on physically, move on mentally. I had never had a doctor be so honest with me. It made a huge impact on my life. I've changed 100% of what I've done, almost, with the exception of a couple bad habits she wanted me to quit, but I'm almost to my goal, and I'm pretty proud of that. And I would not have ever gotten there had a stranger not looked me in the face and said, this is all you need to do to get to where you need to be. You've got to let go of these things and start improving your health.
So a couple years ago, I was homeless, living out of a car, and I had gotten a job, and I had just gotten my first paycheck, which was exciting because, well, I didn't have much food, and so I was able to, you know, for the first time in a while, go ahead and buy myself a lunch, which was pretty exciting for me. And I was just sitting down in the car to eat my lunch. I had gotten a water bottle, a sandwich, and a bag of chips, and there was a knock on my window, and well, I looked up, and there was a homeless guy, and he had seen my water bottle, and he was like, hey man, it's really hot out here. You mind if I have some of your water? And I was like, yeah man, you know, go right ahead. You know what, take the whole water bottle. I'll use the drinking fountain when I get inside. No worries, man. Take the water bottle. He was grateful, and then he noticed the rest of my lunch, and he was like, oh, you know, I wish I had a sandwich right now. I was like, oh, there's 2 halves here, man. Here, have a half a sandwich. The guy was like, all right, you know, I wish I had a bag of chips too. I thought to myself, man, it has been months since I had a bag of chips. I would really like to enjoy this bag of chips. Whatever. Okay, hey man, you know, you go right ahead and have the bag of chips. I'll get another one. Don't worry about it. And so he turned to leave with his water bottle and half sandwich and bag of chips. And he was like, I appreciate you, man. You know, catch you around sometime. I was like, oh yeah, man, you know, stay cool out there and God bless you. And he stopped right there. He turns around and he says, God don't bless me. Look at me, man. God don't bless me, he said as he walked away. And at the time, all I could think was, which one of us was blessed with a bag of chips right now? But, you know, the more I think about it, the more I was, you know, appreciative to be able to give to someone who was a little worse off than myself. Even though at the time I thought I was in a really bad state. You know, that guy, he didn't have a car to stay in. He didn't have a job or anything, but, yeah, I just picture him walk away. God don't bless me. It's like, yeah, man, you know, I think a lot of us are more blessed than we know. And just that brief interaction with a stranger, you know, something I'll never forget, helps me to remember that, to think about every time we think we've got it so bad, you know, are there actually things that are, you know, good in our lives that we need to be thankful for? And I think that's why I remember him.